Right. Well, welcome back to my channel. I am Lamborghini C, and I am excited about today's Let's Talk session. So, I have a special guest joining us. Her name is Jackie Huck, and she is the founder of Huck Yeah. So, I'm just going to bring Jackie up so we can get into it. Hi, Jackie. How
Hey,
are you
Cornetta.
doing?
I'm well. How are you today?
I am doing really good. So I am so excited about our Let's Talk session. I think, again, thank you for agreeing to do this. It's going to be a great learning, I think, experience for myself, but I think for everyone else that watches. Um, I guess I want to just start by saying, we met in April at the cannabis conference in Miami. And so that's kind of how we connected. And so, just to kick things off, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what Huck Yeah is? By the way, I love your name.
Thank you. Yeah. Bringing that excitement and joy to all of the inboxes for the clients that we work with. Thank you for having me. This is the first time I've been a guest on a live stream like this. So I'm really excited to see how it goes and just talk to
Yeah,
you more and learn about you as well. But
absolutely.
yeah, for Huck, yeah. I mean, when you have a last name like Huck, you got to really lean into it.
Hmm.
And it was just something that I really wanted to do as I was moving out of being seen as a contractor, as a freelancer, and starting my own business, looking more like we are a branding and graphic design agency. So when we work with our clients, we do provide that strategy of trying to figure out who you are, what you're all about, how you need to show up for your
Hmm.
customers and your clients, and then also how that overlays into then the design portion, the graphic design and the visual identity of all of the materials that you're putting out into the world.
Okay, awesome. And so I'm curious, how did you get to the point where you have your own business?
Yeah, I was just really fortunate enough as I was a freelancer and contractor for about 6 to 8 years. I had enough clients to support me that it was getting to be a little bit too much. There was just, working hourly, you say, yes, I can do that. Maybe this might be, the height of the the calendar year. So let me get it all in now this month until, because maybe next month isn't going to be so strenuous.
Hmm.
And, you've got to just like make your money when you can type thing. But then it just seemed to be consistently a lot. And it was really eye opening for me to go, if I can do this just for myself, what if I tried to grow this into a bigger experience and a business and be seen more as that agency where I can use all of my networking skills and connections in order to support a staff and bring people in as either interns, contractors, freelancers to work for us, or even full time employees.
Okay. All right. Well, that's very interesting. And so, as you were starting your journey, like, kind of walk us through that. Like, were you nervous? Did you go into it already having kind of some knowledge around being an entrepreneur? Like, did you have a mentor that was able to kind of, guide you through that process? Like, how did you, navigate through those waters?
Yeah, it was interesting again that I started because I had a background in freelancing. It was an easier transition to get into business.
Okay.
Back when I was full time and I was just starting off in my career, I was at a junior designer at a small ad agency and just looking around at all of the people that were there. It was a team of maybe 15 or so,
Oh,
and seeing, oh yeah, I could do that.
yeah.
Maybe we don't need the media buyer type thing. Like I don't know the background to that or have the expertise in that. But as a designer, I could be able to then say I can provide design services to anybody that I kind of run into. And as I was kind of building my network,
Mhm.
I was running into the fact that a lot of companies I was talking to were saying, okay, it has to be a 3-month contract to hire situation where they wouldn't just let me jump from full-time job to full-time job. And I
Okay.
really just needed to take that leap of saying, yeah, I need to become more of that freelancer and have availability to take on those opportunities as a contractor for hire. And then it ended up not turning into that. It ended up being doing a lot of different contract projects.
Okay.
And at the time I was deciding to do this, I actually met my husband, and
Oh,
his
wow.
position was he was in construction at the time. So every
Okay.
few years he would need to move to a different location, to a different project. And that just even made it more aware for me to say, hey, if I'm going to be able to be part of this relationship, there's not going to be that structure set up where I could get that full-time job and then need to uproot all the time.
Mhm.
So it made a lot of sense that I could
Yeah.
just rely on that freelance ability and go from there and really be able to go. We moved from San Francisco to outside Austin
Oh,
and
wow.
then St. Louis before making our way down here to outside of Atlanta, Georgia.
Now that's awesome. I want to just kind of stay right there, just really quickly. Some of our audience members are business owners themselves; they're entrepreneurs. We also do attract people to the channel that maybe are still working in a corporate space, but they aspire to go on into entrepreneurship, and those that are kind of, just getting started and getting their feet wet. Now, you said something really key because I think, when folks are just kind of starting out as they're trying to build their clientele, I love that you actually opened yourself up to be a bit more flexible as you were acquiring clients. Because although, you saw that some companies wanted to hire kind of a contract to perm basis. And I'll tell you, I see that sometimes even with my field, right? It's again, it's you don't have a whole lot of folks out there kind of just providing, services on their own. And I think it's a little bit of a shift in, like the corporate world's mind of, well, why wouldn't you want to be an employee? Right. And so oftentimes they get stuck on that, wanting to, hire you versus wanting to hire your company per se. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that instead of you just walking away from those opportunities, you actually took some of them on and they turned into something else. So I think that that's key, for folks as you're building your clientele. Your clients may not come in the nice, perfect little package or gift box that you envisioned. So you do sometimes have to be a little more flexible, and and it will eventually turn into, what you want it to be.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's
And I mean, it was a lot about just knowing that I had that stable base of a partner to rely on in that
mhm.
situation as well. So as we were moving from place to place, um, we knew that he would have that full-time job. So if anything ever started to like slow down, I could rely on him a
Mhm.
little bit. If
Yeah.
it, which actually just like beautifully was never the case, because as we were moving from place to place and just meeting new people and networking, somehow I was always finding opportunities to be able to work with or support people, whether that was entrepreneurs that getting started in their own business ventures, or if it was with other design agencies, ad agencies, meeting people that worked there that wanted to bring contractors in, and then from there, just being able to grow our client base through word of mouth and
Okay.
everybody that we work with.
Now, what was some of that networking that you were doing that helped you build your clientele?
Saying yes to any request that came in. We would go to bars and just kind of start at one end of the bar and talk to people as we got to the end of it. Or it was saying yes to when we went back to Austin. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas, so
Okay.
I knew a few people in that area still. And when I got back, they invited us to a birthday party. So going out there, it ended up, I sat next to somebody that worked at a branding agency in Austin, and she was able to connect me with their creative director. And it really just being out and available, and even being able to meet you at the conference down in Miami, just having those happenstance
Yeah.
opportunities to really just talk to people and not be salesy about it, right? Like kind of what we're doing right now, getting to know each other, just seeing if something could work out and there is a way to support, because we are a service industry, and being able to support people in any way is just what we really look for.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's key, right? As an entrepreneur, like you have to put yourself out there, so you're going to have to do some networking. You may have to step outside of your norm, step outside of that box, and really get out into your community and begin to make sure people know who you are, because you can have the best services and resources, but if no one knows anything about them, then they don't know to recommend you, or they don't know to hire you yourself,
Yeah.
and so I think that that's key. Also, I think that, again, just keeping in mind that, it could be chance meetings, right? So it doesn't always have to feel like work or feel like networking per se. It could be going out to a bar, or, like we met at a conference. So I did go with the mindset of networking, and meeting other individuals, and it was fun too. It was a great time. And so I think that is, that's key as
And
well for people
kind
to
of
make sure that they're doing.
exactly what you're saying is knowing why you're networking, or where you're going to be networking, or if there's those opportunities. If you go to a conference, find the conference that makes sense and know, are you going to look for partners that can support you in your journey, or are you going to look for clients? Those can happen at different types of conferences or networking events.
Yeah,
If you're just going out to make friends because you move too much, go to a bar, start talking to people to make friends and see where it goes. Sometimes it actually worked out that, yeah, we were able to get some clients out of that.
no, I think that is really great. So now let's move to clients. So who are some of your clients? Like, what types of industries do you work with? What types of companies, solopreneurs, larger corporations, kind of give us a feel for who you're working with.
Yeah. So right now, and our past history has been to work with tech companies that provide that SaaS, software as a service. And we're trying to overlay our understanding of branding and design for those marketing teams
Mm-hmm.
now into the cannabis industry. So we met at the Benzinga Capital Conference down in Miami,
Yes, yes.
going out to the one in Chicago in a couple months as well, and really just looking to say, this is a growing industry. It is trying to do good for our community at large.
Mhm.
And how can we now be of service to that industry? So if
Yeah.
you've got a lot of brands that just want to get out there and white label and get their packaging out and start selling their product, we're actually looking for more of the B2B ancillary service providers to the industry, so we can
Okay.
overlay our understanding that we already have into it now. So,
Okay.
how do you create those campaigns? How do you create lead gen materials that are engaging and then
Mm-hmm.
are consistent in their look and feel? So people can say, oh, yeah, I trust you. I've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
It's caught my eye. It is a need that, a pain point that I'm experiencing right now. And I think that they can then relieve that.
Exactly.
Right?
Now, for people that may not know, can you explain what the SaaS is?
Software as a service. Yeah. So it's a lot
Okay.
of the subscription based models where if you have
Okay.
your project management tool, or if you have, one of our biggest clients is ESO, and they do the software that connects fire, EMS, hospitals
Mm.
together. And now even like government agencies can come in and get all of the data. So you have more of that streamlined process of
Okay.
the patient journey. So it's not just somebody taking vitals out in the field, the hospital having to do that work all over again, something doesn't get translated over, like you can have faster care because everything's connected into that one system, right?
Okay.
And it's not like you're downloading the program anymore, and just keeping it on your platform, your own servers or anything. It's connecting into an ever evolving software.
Okay. Now, you're not just exclusive to the cannabis industry, right? You work across different industries,
Correct.
correct? So you have a diversity of industries that you work within. So I think that's important to highlight. And then also, do you work primarily remotely? Kind of what's your style? Are you going to the client, or is it a mix of both?
It can be a mix of both. Truly, since we've moved so much, none of our clients are in Georgia, actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
everything has been remote, and it
Okay.
was like that as a contractor, and now as a company, as Huck Yeah, everything is done through Zoom, through email, setting up project management systems, and just tapping into how we can file share then to make sure that everybody gets the end product and assets that they need.
Okay. I think that that's really, really good. I think that, again, I just love this day and age that we're in, and that we are, in a time where we have such great technology that allows us the opportunity to work remotely,
Mhm.
nationally and even globally, in some cases. So I think, as an entrepreneur, if you're not taking advantage of that, you need to. Like, don't pigeonhole yourself into just working in your small community. You can actually expand across borders. Okay. I
For
think
sure.
I do want to hear from you around just kind of what has it been like working within the cannabis industry?
Yeah, we're really getting into it right now. And that was the impetus for me to start going to these conferences, to start talking to more clients in that industry. And kind of from what we're hearing is there was that huge rush for the past 5 years, but now things are starting to slow down. And it seems like people are kind of tightening their belts a little bit more, and really trying to be more strategic about it. The other problem is with regulations just being left, right, up, and down, because everything's just done by state, on a
Yeah.
state by state basis. It's really difficult, at least, to have that kind of international or just national approach to your
Hmm.
marketing, right? Like you really have to be specific in how you go and reach out in social media, and making sure that your profile isn't going to get taken down, or you're okay with
Exactly.
testing on one profile to see what's working, and then have your safe zone, that you can also be posting on, so you're testing
Yeah.
and then you're not being taken down in your bread and butter account.
Yeah. Some platforms I had to learn the hard way, like
We
TikTok.
all do. It changes, and you
They're
just
not
never know.
friendly.
One day it passes and one day it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah. So you do have to be mindful of that. I will say, I think that one of the things that I do recognize with the industry is that I think, well, one, working with entrepreneurs is different, right, than working, with individuals in a corporation, because I think that, for me, it's invigorating because I'm working with individuals that have taken a risk, right? I feel like within the cannabis industry, that's a little bit like more heightened because there's a few more risks, right?
Right.
That they're taking and undergoing, and just a few more hurdles that they've had to go through. So there's a bit more tenacity, right, and stick to itiveness, and individualism of really going after their dreams.
But
Um,
that's what we love seeing as well. Like what
yeah,
we want to imbue into our work is that sense of enthusiasm and sense of
yes,
being excited to share your business, your company, your product, your service with others. And when you are an entrepreneur just getting started and you have that drive and you want to throw that then into the design of all you do as well, I think it's really key for people to understand not to take the marketing or the branding too lightly.
yeah,
I understand that you can have kind of your financial limitations where maybe Fiverr is the only place you can go, or
yeah.
your great niece is going to art school, so maybe she can help type thing.
Mhm.
But then there's also that avenue of making sure that you're doing it strategically, working with a partner that really knows what they're doing, is listening to you, is giving you that sense of relief and sense of, again, enthusiasm to be able to give you
Mhm.
something that you are excited to then put out and share.
Yeah, I think that is, I think that's awesome. And I think that's, insightful for people that may be watching, just to consider that, like, even if you are, again, we all have to start somewhere. And so you may be cutting some corners starting out, but I think it's going to be imperative, especially as your client base changes or as you aspire to change or upgrade your client
Right.
base, you're going to need to look internally at your business and do an assessment and consider upgrading the services that you're using,
Yeah.
so that you
Yeah,
can.
and that's always where we're looking, like, are you in that growth mode where you see there's that next step that you need to take? Because we're also not knocking your niece that's going to art school. Like, if that's where you're at and that's what you can do at the moment, do it.
Yeah,
Also don't want
absolutely.
perfection to get in your way. Like, if
Yes.
you need to get the word out, go.
Now, what do you think are some myths around your industry or maybe even your company, or the services that you provide? What are some myths that you can dispel for people?
I think the biggest one is that it can be done instantly, especially around social media,
Okay.
because you see it and you scroll and you spend 2 seconds on a picture before you go to the next one and see what else
Mm,
he's putting out. A lot of people think, oh gosh, it's not worth it. You're not spending enough time on it. I can't be spending that much money on it. And people would then relate money to time. So then they think, okay, you can just whip this up for me, right? It's like that's not how it works. I'm sorry.
yeah.
It takes a lot of thought behind it, a lot of consideration, a lot of trial and error. Even if we're showing you three options of a layout that we want to share with you and think that could work, that doesn't mean that we didn't try 10 before culling it down to get to those three. Or that
Mm,
doesn't mean that it was just instantaneously, oh, we've got all of these little assets here and we'll just throw it all together, right? A lot of it in that creative process, just like you see a painter taking hours to get their work done as well. It isn't it can't move as fast as you think it can, for sure.
yeah. Okay. I think that is good. I think that, and then maybe for some people, if they are meeting with, like your company or, another marketing company, it's important for them to educate themselves as well, right? And maybe ask some questions so you do have an idea around how much time, different things will take so
Yeah.
that you guys are on the same page, right, with expectations.
And I think the other thing is just understanding that we know it's your baby and it is your business, but we're
Hmm.
not just trying to talk about your business. People want to feel connected to it. So you always have to be in that mindset of, what's my audience going to think? How will they react to this? I don't want to just keep saying, we're a branding agency. You should use us. Look at all our design work. It's all about me, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to connect with that. They're going to be like, great, she's shouting again. I got to go. So how do you make it
That's funny.
about your audience, right?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
hard.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, what advice would you have for women in business? We're two women here that are entrepreneurs in business for ourselves. So what advice would you have for women that are in business or looking to go into business?
Yeah, I think a couple things is definitely having a support team in any way. Does that mean having friends that you can just talk to and kind of let out some of your frustrations to work through things? Do you have
Mhm.
colleagues that also might be, they might not be in your industry, but they are also work from home? So you can go grab a quick coffee, step
Yeah.
away from the work, come back and feel revitalized. Or another just actually support for your business. In
Mhm.
the past, I've worked really closely with a lot of different SCORE mentors through the Small Business Association who
Mhm.
provide free services for you. If you know, I love visual narratives and what that language is. You get me in front of Excel and my mind goes blank. Why are there so many numbers all together in the same
Yeah.
font size, in the same weight? I can't make sense of it, right? So really trying to look at that business side of Huck
Yeah.
Yeah was daunting to me, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So being able to reach out to a SCORE mentor just to have somebody give me that primer on accounting really was so beneficial back in the day for me to be successful and keep growing as we are.
I think that is awesome, awesome advice because, you do, like, if you're, especially if you're new to entrepreneurship or business, you do need a business coach of some sort, but you may not have the budget, right? And so it's nice to know that there are those free resources available to you through different small business associations and SCORE, particularly. So thank you for sharing that.
Course,
That's
yeah. I
so
mean, what I think also my biggest one for just myself is learning time blocking, actually. That's what
yeah.
is really driving me for the past couple months to know that you, even if you're working towards entrepreneurship, if you're kind of on that cusp of, okay, I
Mhm.
still have my 9 to 5 here, how do I get everything I need to get done in the remaining hours of my day? Being really strategic that you don't get too far into the weeds on one thing and
Mhm.
negate some other things, right? So how you just say, I've got 30 minutes to look into this before I need to transition over for an hour into another topic, another task that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, time is key, right? Because especially if you are just starting out, oftentimes you may have another gig that you're doing because you have to have some income coming in somewhere. Or as you're expanding, you may have other businesses, right? And so there's going to come a point in time where, one, you're going to have to be strategic with your time, but then you also may need to begin to delegate. And so you may need to bring on additional resources and find cost effective ways to do that, whether it's using a Fiverr or if it's using some staff, which we provided at Advent Enterprises. So it's a shameless plug here.
But
And
you know,
so yeah, and so and I bring that up because for me that was difficult. That was a challenge for myself. And I think that it's probably a challenge for a lot of people, but I think women, especially, I think that, we kind of have this thing where, I can do it myself, or we want to prove to ourselves. And again, your company is oftentimes your baby, like you're birthing your ideas and, and you're sharing them with the world. And so it can be difficult to kind of give up that control or, to begin to delegate or put certain tasks in other people's hands. But it's going to be imperative for your growth and even for you to be able to sustain as an entrepreneur. You can't just jump in, initially starting out. I think for many people, like, you have to put in more work as you're just getting going. So you may have those 80-hour weeks, but that's not sustainable.
no,
It's not.
no,
And you don't want to be in a position where you're merely just trading a job for another job. you know
exactly.
that's often not the goal of why people go into entrepreneurship. Many times it is to provide a little more freedom for themselves around with the things they get to work on, like having diversity of projects that they can work on and industries they can work within, but also having freedom of time, more importantly, So
Yeah,
I
and
think
if that means time blocking for fun, make sure that you build that in so you know that that's the
mhm,
time that you need to take for you to re-energize,
yeah.
regroup, get rested in order to continue to feel excited about it and not burdened. Because you're
Mhm.
right, when I was going into that, like transitioning from contractor to, hey, what if I tried and made this an actual business, I was working those 80, 90-hour weeks because
Oh yeah. I think
it's all me. I got to do it. I am in control, and I can't trust anybody else who's going to give the same quality or dedication that I am.
oh yeah, I think we all get caught into that trap, right? And and then perfection. You want everything to be perfect and all these different things. And I have to tell you that again, it's not sustainable. So that's something that you have to check yourself on. Also some really, really great advice that I received um, as I was starting out from another entrepreneur. So, to your point, having those friend groups of people that are kind of in the same space as you, it may not be the same industry. They may have a completely different company providing completely different services, but I think that there is some common ground that entrepreneurs have, right? Because there is a similar kind of path or journey. And so, a friend that doesn't have that exposure, they may not understand like some of the pains that you're going through and what have you. So it is comforting to be able to bounce things off of people that have been through it or that are going through it, so that I'm not alone. Or sometimes you may even be harder on yourself because you may think, oh, I'm just messing things up, and you talk to another entrepreneur and they're letting you know, no, you're actually on the right path, and it's probably going to get a little worse before it gets a little better. And so
Right.
so you need to hear that. But some advice that I got was, hey, you're going to have to, like make sure you don't lose your voice or find your voice, right, in business. I think that it can be intimidating for people, especially if they've gone from working for others into now working for yourself and running your own business, especially around the area around pricing for your services, right? And putting valuation to the services or products that you're providing. I
Mhm.
think as much confidence as people may have, I think that they do become a little shy. And I've fallen victim to that too. Well, am I charging too much? And in most cases, believe it or not, guys, sometimes you're not charging enough. And so, that's where sometimes, some expertise from maybe a business consultant can kind of help with that or what have you. Now, have you struggled with that or, you know,
100%. Yes, yes. I mean, especially around pricing. I think it's just our culture was not, we're always told, don't talk about money. That's a private affair. So the idea that you don't want to bring it up in conversations with potential clients, or you start shying away from, well, they said that this is just a quick project. They might not have enough money. Maybe I should just lower my prices or give them a discount of some sort. And I think some great advice that I was given by my first business coach, Shara Bell, she said, just add 20% to whatever you think that you're going to be charging. It's
okay.
okay.
I think that's awesome because
Yeah.
again, I think everyone struggles with it, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting. The other thing too, again, if people can get free services from you, they're going to, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And especially, I think it's a little bit different when you provide a service. When you have a service-based company, there is that slippery slope, and I've fallen into it. It's actually what kind of pushed me into establishing my business, right? Because I have the career in HR. And so for many, many years, whether I was on a plane or just friends calling, people always want to pick your brain, right? They want your insight or your counsel on something. So I
Mhm.
found myself like over the years just giving away really great advice. And so
Yeah,
and
yeah, and
so
that's not to say
yeah.
you can't have your free initial consultation.
Yeah.
Put a time limit on it. Do you have 15 minutes? Because you've got a really specific line of questioning, or
Mhm.
do you want to open it up to 30 minutes? An hour is overly generous for that, because
Yeah,
that's usually when you get a little more into the weeds, right?
I
Um,
think so. And being conscious and cognizant of what you're sharing, right?
exactly. Yeah,
And I think, again, for me, I'm still working on that. Like, I have to pull myself back because when I hear a problem, I immediately want to solve it,
same.
right? And before you know, I've given you the whole roadmap, and we don't even have a contract in place.
Right. Yeah, but that's kind of also then training you into, okay, what's my line of questioning to get to the end result of I need to give them a proposal.
Mhm.
So let me just figure out what their problem is. In my mind, I know how to solve it and go, great, I would love to give you a proposal on this. I think we can do like great work together. Let's set up another meeting. I'll review the proposal with you and talk through the thinking here.
Uh-huh.
And then go through those kind of tactics of what you'll be providing them in order to solve their problem and not just give it away.
Yeah.
And
Now, one of the things I'm curious around, since we're on pricing, is um, like, are you pricing per project? Do you have folks on retainer? What are your feelings around that? Like, is that something you think people should focus on as kind of, um, getting into retainer agreements, for service-based entrepreneurs?
yeah, retainers are phenomenal. I really like, for my business in the creative space, is looking at what kind of projects that we're going to be working together on. Like, if we know in a quarter, in the next 3 months, we are going to have 3 reports that need to be designed, all of the campaign assets for your social media, your web banners, your email outreach, all of that needs to be combined with it. There's going to be 5 of those campaigns that need to go out, and any additional assets like 3 infographics, to know that it's not just about the hours that I put in, but it's
Mhm.
around the deliverables that we're going to give. And if we can say on a consistent basis, we're going to have X, Y, and Z in this amount of time, it's going to be this amount of money. And you can do that, then breaking it out into that monthly retainer, quarterly retainer, what actually works for you. But definitely moving away out of that hourly mentality, just because that's how is
Mhm.
really getting pigeonholed as freelancer, contractor, and not business.
Okay.
But
Okay.
also just making sure that you have that Excel doc where you're going through and itemizing everything that you need to pay for as a business. What
Mhm.
is your rent? What are your supplies? What's going to be your salary, and
Mhm.
making sure that you have a good justification for what you're charging. So it's not just going, I don't know, $20.
Yeah,
That's not
absolutely.
supporting you in any way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just recognizing, you know what, everyone may not be for you. Like, everyone may not be your client.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You kind of
Say
have to,
no. It's the best thing.
yeah, I think that, you go through a growth period where you begin to, as you're beginning to brand, where you start to recognize and build your, kind of ideal client profile or client avatar. I'm hearing thrown
Yep.
around a lot now. There's even, I love AI technology. There's even now kind of a movement where folks are beginning to use AI technology to identify their client avatar, which I think helps them gain a little more focus. I would imagine that you take folks through kind of that similar process as you're beginning to help them come up with a marketing strategy and campaign.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And to your point, you can use that because those are the people that you want to sell to, but you can also use it to say, are these clients that I want to work with falling within that avatar and that profile? Because if they're not going to help me move forward with that consistent voice and message and hope. Because they're going to typically be the ones that cause you the most headache, cause you the most stress,
Oh my
really bring you down, and then start affecting your other work, right?
Oh my
So
goodness. Yes. I keep seeing this there is a post on Instagram that kind of floats around every few months. But basically the premise of it, it's just saying like those clients that, you know, you're charging $50 to, they're going to be the ones that need a whole executive summary and need this or that. The person that, you know, comes in and you know, pays $10,000, they're like, hey, I need you to deliver this. Here's the expert, like, handle this for me, you know, let me know
exactly.
when you're done. And so again, I think it's important as you kind of grow into entrepreneurship that you identify your client avatar and just realize that, you know what, everyone isn't your particular client. Everyone may not be a fit, and you may not be a fit for everyone, and that's okay. It actually is a good thing to identify early on because it helps you again with that time management. So
Yeah.
you're not spending your time in places that, you know, it's just not a fit and not, you know.
And
And
sometimes we just need to learn that, right? If you feel, I just need to bring one more client in this month and I'll feel comfortable, and you give
Mhm.
into it, it might work out, right? It's not to say that you should always say no if something doesn't feel exactly right, but also be able to set those boundaries of knowing it's a test and being okay to fire a client every now and then.
I think that's key too. I think, yeah, that's the other thing. I think that, you know, a lot of times the focus is around, you know, because the marketing and how can I attract more clients? How can I get more clients? I think that entrepreneurs oftentimes kind of give away their power or they forget they have the power. Again, that's one of the freedoms of being an entrepreneur is because you get to choose who you get to work with, right?
Mhm.
And so if, you know, let's say you do enter into an agreement with a client and you know what, it's not a fit, why suffer through that?
Yeah, right, right.
Um,
So, but that means having a solid contract that allows for you to
yes. Yeah.
um, and
Yeah.
knowing where those kind of milestone points can be for you to also look, just do a quick review and assess whether
Yeah,
it's
have an open dialogue
yeah,
because they may be feeling the same way, right? And if you guys communicate, you may be able to come to some common ground for a
yeah,
breaking
that's a
point.
wonderful point.
And, you know, or even hand off like to them because at the end of it all, they're not going to be happy and you're not, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah, yeah, and you're not gonna get a good, even, like, looking at clients as case studies as well, where how can I use this as a selling point to the next client that I wanna get? If they're not happy, you're not gonna be able to use that in your portfolio either, as a success
Exactly.
story.
Exactly. I think that that is awesome.
But I
Now,
love your point of, even if you feel that tension, holding that conversation and having that honest approach with them. Because, yeah, there might just be one little speed bump that they weren't aware of, and it makes it all better.
yeah.
So, not just throwing them away instantly, right? But really trying to work through that partnership that you've
Mhm.
come into to see how you can get back on that same page and regroup and assess and keep going. I mean, we even tell that with our clients with the design work that we provide.
Mhm.
Sometimes we're not going to hit it, right? And
Yeah.
I need you to be honest with me and tell me why it's not working so we
Mhm.
can regroup and try again.
Yeah, and that's important, right? Because you have to stay true to your branding.
Yeah.
And if something isn't a fit, you know, you speak up. You know, you
Yeah.
have to have that voice. You have to exercise your voice.
But then
Now,
also not take it personally either. It's
yeah,
their business, and you're also providing a business service or
yeah,
product, right? So it can sting, but also know that you can leave it at the desk and walk away, and it's not trying to berate you in any way or bring you down. You're still really good at what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's really great advice. Now, I don't know, did we talk about how long have you been in business? How many
I
years?
incorporated as an LLC in 2020.
Okay.
But yes, before then it was probably 10 years.
Okay, that's awesome. So you've
Freelancer.
got a lot of time under your belt, you
Yeah.
know, in this entrepreneur world. So, what would you say has been your biggest challenge to date?
Control issues. Yeah,
Mm,
that's a big one.
okay.
Uh, I want to make sure the quality's there, the thinking's there, the how it's getting done, and I know that it's getting done correctly in my mind, right?
Hmm.
But as we start growing and as there are those breaking points of, no, I can't do this all by myself, nor do I want to. The entire goal of building an agency was to build a team. So,
Yeah.
how do we set up processes? How do we set up those trust relationships,
Hmm.
check in meetings to make sure that we're all on the same page? We're getting the work done. Everybody's really excited to be doing their job and
Hmm.
participating in their role.
Yeah. No,
I'm
now
getting
you're on my street now, so I just love this. So I am curious because I want people to be able to learn from you and pick up, some little nuggets here around like as an entrepreneur managing people because that is a whole new curveball,
it is.
especially for individuals who again maybe they were in the workforce but they may not have graduated to levels within their companies where they have responsibilities to supervise or to manage. And so now, as an entrepreneur, where you're in charge of everything and you start bringing people on board to help with your vision, let's talk about managing other people.
Yeah, yeah, it was new. I mean, because I was contracting for so long and remotely really for so long, it's really been me as a team of one. And the clients that I work with are the marketing directors, the creative directors, the managers, and I always had them to rely on for seeing how what was happening in their company. But it was only kind of in a few instances where I was going into an office to see how teams would work
Yeah.
and just seeing, okay, I liked how that person did it, but I feel like they could have done it better in this regard or as somebody else, right? So just kind of making an assessment of this is how I would want to manage people and treat people. This is how I want to be treated, right? Uh,
Hmm.
and knowing that there's that respect there, just person to person, but also being very clear with expectations as well
Hmm.
is really key because that's where I was finding some tension was arising at points where I would just say like, I need it done. You're great. Do it. And they're just like, I don't know what you really want me to do out of this. Is this it? And then we've lost a lot of time there because
Okay.
it wasn't handed off properly. So how can you build in those processes for people to be able to follow? How can you make sure that expectations are set up from the get-go, or if not, realize when they
Mhm.
need to be in place in order for people to know what to do and how to execute and be successful?
Yes. Now, have you had instances where you had difficult employees or contractors or where it just wasn't a fit, where maybe they just weren't a fit culturally for your company?
Yeah, I feel very lucky in that regard of we're able to take our time in hiring
That's
because we want to be strategic about our growth. We need to have the right team members in place.
good.
So when we interview, it was taking about a month to get through all of the interviews to find the
Uh-huh.
person that really
And
jived with us.
that's normal. Yeah.
Okay.
That's normal.
And in the interviews, it was really just looking for people that had questions, that wanted to really engage in the conversation. Because you could see other people as they were interviewing would
Hmm.
just go like, "Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I can do these things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can learn on the job." And it's
Hmm.
like, okay, I feel like this is going to come back at me whenever projects are given to them,
Yeah,
right? So really just being able to see who has that same kind of conversation as you do and same drive that you do as well.
yeah,
Uh,
that's imperative. I think, kind of a rule of thumb or, in HR is, hey, hire slow, fire fast.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you want to take the time because you want to understand, like, some things we can train on, like technical things. A lot of times we can train on those things, but it's the soft skills, it's the motivation, right?
mhm,
It's the drive that needs to already be something that an individual holds within them. And also, it's, making sure that they have those same thought processes and standards around, the company culture that you have to
yeah,
make sure that they are a fit for the company as well as like servicing your clients that is key.
yes,
And so I think that sometimes folks focus so much on the technical skill and maybe depth of knowledge there. They may not spend enough time as you do and really getting to know the individual, getting to know their learning style.
hmm,
Are they inquisitive? Like, are they, asking questions? Are they trainable and coachable? I think that folks need to spend a bit more time and focus on those areas. And, if I had to, like weigh candidates, again, in some cases it's going to be the one that's coachable and trainable over the one that maybe comes in with a resume that has all these expertise and skills but may be more rigid in
yeah.
scope.
Yeah, and I'm especially as you are starting out and you're a team of one looking to grow, it is really imperative that you are looking for somebody that you can work with or that you do feel comfortable if they do need to go in front of the client, can hold themselves properly and in the way that you would hope that they can.
Yeah.
To your point, like sometimes you're going to have those kind of back of house people that like our web developers, they don't need to be in front of clients, right? So if we're just looking for technical skills, that's fine. We need the job done. But
Hmm.
for more of our kind of creative team of having to go in front for client presentations, learning new skills, being interested in continuing education, because that's part of our contract with them is that we want to support them in their growth and we want them to be excited to continue learning. And
Exactly.
yeah, just making sure that you're asking questions to find those kinds of people.
Yeah, I think that that is awesome, awesome advice. I think that, again, I'm so happy that you agreed to have this conversation with me because I think it's insightful, right? To be able to hear from people that are in the trenches, that are currently doing it, and you have some longevity as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And again, like we know, the road isn't necessarily going to be easy per se, but nothing is. You're going to face struggles even if you're, working for someone. You may have challenges. And so it's really just facing those things head on, recognizing where you do need the help, reaching out for help, and, taking advantage of some of those free resources and also networking to learn, of those opportunities to, get some additional resources and things. There's so many people out here that want to help. I think that's something that, I had to be reminded of is like more people want to help you than don't. And
Exactly.
so, really putting yourself out there is going to be key. As we close, is there any other advice that you'd have for anyone that's interested in going into business for themselves?
I think I keep coming back to, the time blocking thing, the idea of even scheduling your emails that go out.
Okay.
Because if you're trying to if you're on that cusp of do I leave that full-time job for the unknown, you might be doing work at night, but you don't want to be sending those emails at 8 p.m., 10 p.m. type thing. You don't want to start training clients to think that you are available at all hours.
Mhm.
So, how do you manage your time, but then also schedule things appropriately to go out and look like you're hitting it at 9 a.m., 12
Exactly.
type thing?
Again, we are so fortunate in this day and age that we're in. It's 2023. There's so much technology. And
Yeah.
so even with Outlook, like I use that all the time because I do exactly that. Like there's some times where I'm not even able to get to emails till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And so I will schedule them to go out at like 7:30 or 8 a.m. like the next morning, right?
Yeah.
Because I also want them to be top of the inbox, for the individuals that are starting their day so that they're more apt to see it as well. But and then it's one more thing off of my task list to do
Yeah.
because a lot of times, if you say, oh, well, I need to send them an email tomorrow,
You're going to forget.
you may forget,
Yeah.
or your attention
Something
gets
will get
pulled
in
into
the
a
way.
different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
and it's just like, knowing that this is something that you want and making it work for you is kind of
yeah,
my thinking, right? Like, how do we set you up for success, set myself up for success?
yeah.
And, just knowing that, yeah, it's gonna be a little scary, but
Mhm.
also totally doable.
Yeah.
Anytime a friend says, I was thinking of going in business for myself, I'm just like, do it. I can't wait to have you on this
Yeah.
side. But yeah, also just assessing your situation as well, and
Yeah.
knowing fully that, yeah, you can hold yourself accountable, that you are really excited to be able to go out, network, start meeting people, and growing your
Mhm.
business.
Yeah. And that's key. Again, when you talk about that networking, again, what you keep saying around blocking time and really being strategic with your time because you are going to have to put time into networking or going to meetings or joining your local
Mhm.
chamber and or if you're able to join a BNI group. Um, And so that's time that you're not going to be able to be at your computer doing work. So you are going to have to find those opportunities where maybe you can schedule some emails to go out at specific times or even text messages. There's so much technology again today where you can schedule even posts for social media. We do that months out, right?
Yeah.
And so, begin to become strategic. I think, before I went into entrepreneurship, I thought that I was a pretty efficient person. But boy, when I tell you, I look at myself today compared to, a few years back, and I think I am the most efficient that I've ever been in my life. And
I
I'm
love
still
it.
growing. Like it's only going to get better,
Yeah.
right? And so, again, that's just again, it's a necessity. It really is a necessity in today's world. So, lastly, I want you to share with us how can we get in touch with you? How can we reach out to you for your services?
Yeah, if you are looking for branding or graphic design services, or just to have that consultation that, where do you need to be? How do you make that next step? I'm happy to talk with people. So you can reach out to me by email, jackie@huckyeah.com. And also, you can just check out our website, huckyeah.com. And where there's a contact form there, you can sign up for a newsletter on our website. We're also on LinkedIn and Instagram as well.
Okay. Well, awesome. Again, Jackie, this has been insightful. It's been, a great conversation. I think that folks will walk away with some useful tips that they can actually implement. They're practical things that they can implement. And this has been just a delightful conversation. So thank you again for joining me on my channel.
Of
Again,
course.
I'm Lamborghini C, the HR Whisperer. So have a great day, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you, Janetta. We'll talk
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. Bye bye.